So remember how I had said Adam Schefter told us that the tush push was likely to happen and that the Detroit playoff seeding rule proposal change was not likely to happen. Albert Breer has a different take on this. He's reporting something different. He says Roger Goodell really wants this to happen. He really wants to pass this through. And it's with that he wants to restore the end of the regular season. So if you go look at the end of the regular season, okay? Houston, Green Bay, the Rams, Washington, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and the Chargers. Okay? These were teams that would be playing for a different seed in Week 18.
Mm-hmm.
Under the current format, Houston was locked into the 4. Philadelphia was locked into the 2. Under Detroit's, Houston could have been the 4, 5, or 6, or 7 seed. So the only teams that played their quarterbacks in Week 18 was the Chargers and the Steelers. Philly sat, Washington sat, Rams sat, Packers sat, Houston sat. The Rams could have been 4, 5, or 6 under Detroit's proposal, or 7. Washington could have been 4, 5, or 6. Green Bay could have been 4, 5, or 6. And I assume part of Detroit's proposal is that they had to play a 12-win team in their second round game, whereas a team that finished below them in Philadelphia had to play a 10-win team. So what they might do, and Roger knows this, is what they might keep the seeding the same for the first round, but then reseed after that to protect your 1 seed.
Okay. I could see that. If anything that gets more potential intense outcomes, or the league is going to be a fan of.
Yeah.
So that makes some sense.
Because if you have those 7 teams and 5 of them are sitting their quarterbacks, how much more unwatchable are Week 18 games?
Yeah, exactly. It completely changes that is going to be in large part the biggest factor in terms of the quality of it.
So Roger knows. He knows that he doesn't have the votes right now. That's why he's tabling this thing till May. Draft is coming up, like you said. 10 days?
No, not quite. We're about 2 weeks out. 2 weeks out.
Today.
2 weeks from today. 2 weeks. So over at FTN, FTN Fantasy, which is a really cool site. That's where
they moved DVOA over to.
Yeah, that was the what was it? What was their? It was Football Outsiders.
Football Outsiders.
So Football Outsiders had moved a lot of their stuff over to FTN Fantasy, and I liked this article over there. It was the least and most successful first-round teams in the NFL draft over the last 10 years. Because we've talked about this. The first-round pick is so crucial because of the fifth-year option. You're talking about locking into somebody for half of a decade at a cheap rate. If you nail those picks, you're generally thought of as being, hey, we're going to have sustained success here. And if you miss them, you can really dig yourself in a hole. Mm-hmm. More so than even if you were to hit your first-round pick and have good picks or have bad picks the rest of the way, that can sometimes be more helpful to you than if you have a bad first round pick and some solid picks the rest of the draft. That's how crucial that gap can be. But over at FTN, they decided to take and rank over the last decade how good teams have been at their first round draft selections. So they say there's a couple notes here. First, this is just about the players selected. They're not evaluating trade ups, trade downs, how much a team gave up to make the pick. This is just you selected a player. How did he do? Second, this is only how players performed in their original tenure with the team that drafted them. So Sam Darnold made the Pro Bowl and got MVP votes last year with the Vikings, but the Jets get no credit for that in terms of was it a successful draft pick.
All right.
Third, there is not much in the way of objective criteria here just because it's extremely hard to compare a tackle drafted 8th to a wide receiver drafted 27th to a quarterback drafted 2nd. Mm-hmm. So if you look at all the first-round picks as a group, successes and failures definitely start to kind of come into focus. So they started it by saying, let's look at the least successful team. So part 1 was a breakdown of the back 16. So from 17 to 32. The worst drafting team in the first round over the last 10 years is who, RJ Choppy?
The Raiders.
NFC team.
The Giants.
The Chicago Bears.
Okay.
Whose first-round picks include Kevin White, who played 14 games with the team. You've got Darnell Wright, who hasn't necessarily been a big success. Justin Fields, Roquan Smith, who they traded. Mitchell Trubisky, who ended up busting. You were close. The Las Vegas Raiders were second on this list. followed by the Titans. The Patriots are fourth last. But here's the one that's relevant to the Dallas Cowboys. Number 26 on this list of the worst drafting teams in the NFL is the New York Giants. That's also the only NFC East team in the back half of the league on this list. They've obviously had some swing and miss picks with not Andrew Thomas, Kadarius Toney. Evan Neal has not played well. Deonte Banks. So Daniel Jones, they got into that contract and then immediately walked away from it. So that's been a failure. The one that's interesting on this side of the list, 23. So we're talking about bottom 10 in the league in terms of success over the last decade with their first-round picks. Who do you think it would be? It's a good team. And definitely an outlier around all the other teams.
Kansas City.
The San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco's been very fortunate to hit Purdy. Fred Warner was a late-round pick. Dre Greenlaw was a day 3 pick, I believe. When you look at some of their first-round picks...
Was Ayuk a second-rounder?
Ayuk was a first.
Okay. So he was a first. Bosa was a first.
Trey Lance was in there. Javon Kinlaw didn't play totally well. Mike McGlinchey was okay, but left. Reuben Foster spent 16 games with the team. Solomon Thomas, who's now here with the Cowboys, he didn't ultimately pan out the way you would expect him to. They ended up trading DeForest Buckner before his second contract. Joshua Garnett was not exactly a successful player. He only played 22 games there. So their first-round picks, they've missed a lot. They've been really fortunate to hit on some stuff on day 2 and day 3. That's been...
Parcells used to say, it doesn't matter if you hit on your first-round picks as long as you hit on other picks. Like if you missed on a first, but you hit on your 7th. But, I think the flip side of that, though, is that you hit it on your first gives you... Like, what is hitting on your 7th? Like,
so,
if you hit on your first-round pick, you're getting a difference maker. If you hit on your 7th, you're just getting a starter to me.
Yeah, if I draft Brock Purdy in the 7th or the 1st, I'm considering Brock Purdy a success at that pick, right? Whereas, Jock Reeves, the old corner for the Cowboys, he would be considered a success as a 7th-round pick. If you drafted him the 1st, that's a bust. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I agree. You got to tailor it a little bit. So that's why I say...
Yeah, because I think he was using the Jay Ratliff example, I think.
Ratliff was a really good player. Yeah, that's a success.
That's a success. But he was a really... Now, if you drafted him in the first round, you're still like, okay, you know what? We hit on Jay Ratliff in the first round.
Yeah, because that was a guy who's a 5-6-time Pro Bowler and was really, really good. All right, we get to the front half of the list where the NFC East teams all are. Number 16 is the Washington Commanders on this list, which is...
Mid-pack?
Yeah, I mean, it's right in the middle. They say the Commanders' recent first-round history has very little middle ground. Brandon Sheriff, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and obviously Jaden Daniels are success stories, while Josh Doxson, Dwayne Haskins, Jahan Dotson, and Emmanuel Forbes have not necessarily been big-time successes. But that was 16 on the list, the Washington Commanders. Number 13, the Philadelphia Eagles. Said if you do this exercise again in 5 years, the Eagles might rise a lot because their recent, hey, let's get all Georgia defenders strategy has led to a lot more success. Since 2021, their first-round haul of Devontae Smith, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, and Quinyon Mitchell, which Devontae Smith was not a Georgia player or a Georgia defender, and Quinyon Mitchell went a long way toward their Super Bowl title a few months ago. But before that, things were worse. Nelson Aguilar was a first-round pick for them. Carson Wentz, obviously. Andre Dillard was a bust on the offensive line. Jalen Reagor didn't do very much with them, the old TCU product.
Reagor.
So that has not necessarily been a success. Quickly, let's go to the top 10, which the Dallas Cowboys are in.
Okay.
Number 10, the Minnesota Vikings. 9, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sounds like successful teams for the most part right now. 8, Baltimore Ravens. 7, this is an outlier. The Cleveland Browns are the 7th team on this. Their biggest issue is they've hamstrung themselves with awful contracts, namely the Deshaun Watson one. Number 6, the Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons are the home runs in Dallas, but there haven't been many out-and-out misses. Maybe Mozzie Smith, and the jury's out on Tyler Guyton. I would say Taco Charlton was an outright miss. Before that, it was a bunch of good picks. Not over the moon, not busts, just guys you like. Even Ezekiel Elliott, who's great for a long while, has the downside of going 4th overall, right ahead of Jalen Ramsey, Ronnie Stanley, and DeForest Buckner. These have been their first-round picks over the last several years. They had a great run. Byron Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, Taco was not great. Leighton Vander Esch was a Pro Bowler, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, Tyler Smith, and then the last two have been Mozzie Smith and Tyler Guyton, where you're a little shaky on there. Rest of the top 5 on this list, 5, the Atlanta Falcons, 4, the Kansas City Chiefs, 3, the Los Angeles Chargers, 2, the Los Angeles Rams. So for all the bleep them picks.
Hang on. How are they the best? This is just first rounders?
It's the quality of their picks, yeah. So they've only had 3 in the last decade. They've made 3 first-round picks. Those picks are...
So they made Goff.
Uh-huh.
I don't...
Gurley.
Oh, my God.
Todd Gurley, Jared Goff, and Jared Verse. Which Jared Verse was the defensive rookie of the year.
I mean, I know they traded Goff, but he's turned out to be a successful player.
Yeah.
Gurley, they gave him a second contract. He was successful.
Goff made a Super Bowl with him. So, yeah, he was successful there, too. The number 1 drafting team in the NFL is...
Detroit?
MCDC. Motor City, Dan Campbell. They are the number 1 team. Early part of the decade wasn't bad. They got 2 of their current starting offensive linemen, plus an upper-tier tight end. That alone would have had the Lions flirting with the top 10, but after whiffing on Jeff Okudah in 2020, the Lions took off in the 2020s. Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Jameis Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jack Campbell in 21 through 23. And then
Has
last
Campbell
year's
been a good player? Has Campbell hit?
Yeah, Campbell's been good.
They killed that draft. The pundits killed that draft, the Gibbs-Campbell draft.
Yeah, and those 2 have been really successful.
Yeah.
I remember the Cowboys area scout, Justin Stuckey, for Jack Campbell. He came on with us the second day of the draft show, and we were like, what was your favorite pick of the first round? What was one where you were like, nuts? And he said Jack Campbell.